interested in standing in welfare line. So having said that there, I think with this project there, the message I would like to get across to the Environmental Impact Review Board is that we have to be active participants in the design and in the construction. And it's our community and our companies that have to really benefit from this. And there's a lot of negative impacts too that we have to consider. And I think just trying our best to mitigate, well, firstly, we have to identify them, and then we have to work hard on mitigating and minimizing those impacts. And I think that's possible with the people we have in our community. I really believe in all of you. So like I said there, so that's the one thing we really got to focus on, is that we have to be active participants in all aspects of this road, especially when it comes to construction. And the money, really, we need to benefit this economically and also have long-term maintenance contracts there. And I know there's a lot of emphasis on the negative impacts there. And like I said, there, once we start identifying them and then we start tackling them and meeting those head on, I think we'll be fine there. So my message is, if this road were to happen, we have to be active participants in the design, like I said, and we have to have our company doing the work and letting us partner with who we want. And it's all part of economic reconciliation, if you will, because to me, reconciliation means a lot more than just saying, I'm sorry, right? We need opportunities to propel ourselves and get ourselves into a situation where we're self-sufficient and we have our own money and we're not so dependent on the government. That's what I'm trying to get away from, is being dependent. I want to be independent as an independent community, and just having freedom, financial freedom to do as we please, to really go after our agenda and what we believe is fair and what we believe what we want. So having said that, I wish you all a safe and happy meeting. Hope you all get your voices heard, because it's very important. This is an opportunity for us to really change what we want done and the way we want it done. So let's get our voices heard there. Let's support each other, and let's have a good meeting there. And I'd like to thank you all once again for coming out there. It's greatly appreciated. I apologize I wasn't able to make it there, but I'm over here and Treaty 7 territory with all the other chiefs from Canada, and there's some major issues that that we need to have our voices heard too over here. So I'll be busy over here, proud member of Pehdzéh First Nations. I keep telling people that there, and which I am. So like I said there, I wish you all a safe and happy meeting there. Thank you all to the members that traveled there. We'll hopefully pray that you all make it safely home to your loved ones. And I think that's really about it for me right now. And if there's anything else, I can jump right back on here and go from there. I'm really sorry I can't hear the community hall, but like I said, there, prayers are with you guys there. Just get your voices heard, get your concerns heard, and like I said, let's have this go our way. It can be done. I think that's it for me here. Sorry, it's really. Can somebody text me or something there?
Just confirming for the people in the room, we don't seem to be able to, the people online can't hear what's going on in the room.
Okay. Alrighty, so I'll be signing off here. If anybody needs me, I'm just a phone call away here. I know this is important here. The meetings I'm in are important, but my community is more important if I just need a phone call or something. If you guys want my opinion again. Oh, I hear the translator. That's great. Okay, Mosi,
Merci, Chief Moses.
Okay, thank you, Chief Moses.
Okay, just for information here on your translators here, English is on channel 2, Dene Jati is on channel 3, and it looks like that word says floor, channel 1. So, okay, all right. Okay, so welcome to the community session for the environmental assessment of the GNWT's proposal for upgrading the Mackenzie Valley Highway and for an all-season road between Wrigley and Norman Wells. I have to remind myself to speak slowly too, because the translator needs to hear or to speak. The review board's mandate, I would just like to quickly go over that. We are here today to listen to your views about the potential impacts of the GNWT's proposed Mackenzie Valley Highway project. The review board gets its authority from the law called the Mackenzie Valley Resource Management Act. The review board is also responsible for the environmental assessment of proposed developments in the Mackenzie Valley. Board members are nominated by the Saulteaux, the Gwich'in, and Dehcho First Nations, as well as the territorial and federal government.
Does anybody want or need a copy of the handout of this presentation, a hard copy? We have a hard copy of Joanne's presentation. Does anybody want one or need one? Need one over there? Okay.
I'll just carry on then while hard copies are being sent out. Our goal here is to make decisions that will protect the environment, social, economic, and cultural well-being of all residents of the Mackenzie Valley, now and for the future generations. With specific regard for the conservation of the way of life and well-being of Indigenous people. Our board members are here today and some are online. We should have a board member online too as well. And at this time, I would like the board members to introduce themselves and what they represent, what organ or what area region they come from. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Hearn, and I'm GNWT's nominee to the board.
I'm David Krutko. I've been nominated by the Gwich'in Tribal Council.
I'm Brenda Goche, and I'm nominated for the Dehcho. My father was John McLeod, and my mother is Noella Bon Rouge from Fort Providence.
And online, I see we have one board member, Jim Edmondson. Raise your hand. And there he is. I guess we can't speak to him, or he can't hear us, or I guess he can hear us because he was waving madly there. Jim is a federal nominee, and we also have Camellia Chocolate Zoe. She's our Clecho nominee. Sunny Monroe is the federal nominee, and both Sunny and Camellia send their regrets as they were not able to attend today, but they will have an opportunity to fully review all meeting reports and summaries. They will be joining the board next week as we travel into the Saulteaux region. At this time, I would also like to invite our staff members to introduce themselves. And there's some out in the hallway, I think, and we could just start at the table here.
Hi, everyone. I am Hi, is it better? Yes. So my name is Clementine Bush, and I'm the assistant lead on the Mackenzie Valley Highway project.
Thanks. I'm Alan Ehrlich. I'm the manager of environmental impact assessment at the review board.
Chuck Hubert, Senior Environmental Assessment Advisor.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Lance, and I'm the Manager of Indigenous Outreach, Engagement, and Partnerships with the Review Board. My father is Stan Lance, and my mother is Angie Lance, and I'm originally from Lutzelke. Masi for inviting us into your beautiful community.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mallory Nerlangayuk. I'm originally from Fort Simpson. It's really great to be back in the date show and see amazing smiling faces.
Hi, I'm Donna Shear. Merci for having us in and welcoming us into your community. Very beautiful, FYI. My title is Community Engagement Specialist, and yeah, merci.
Thank you, staff. And then online, we have staff members online. We have our executive director. Go ahead, Mark and Catherine, introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Mark Phillips, the Executive Director at the Review Board. I wish I was there, but I'll be following along all day online. Catherine?
Hi, everyone. Catherine Fairbairn. I'm the lead for the Mackenzie Valley Highway Project on the Review Board side, and I'm also very sorry to not be there in person. The fog just got in the way a bit yesterday, but I was in Wrigley last year and really enjoyed it. So hopefully I'll be back again, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The board is assisted today by Joanne Barnaby, my sister, and Natasha Thorpe. And they're acting as independent knowledge interpreters and cultural specialists, and they will help to facilitate the sessions today. They will produce a summary report of the session with the assistance of Hannah Curry. There she is. And prior to the community discussions, we'll have Joanne and Natasha introduce themselves later and how they will be assisting today. This report will be available for public review prior to finalization. I would also like to recognize our interpreter for today's sessions, our Dene Jati interpreter, Elizabeth Hardesty. Way at the back there. Just a reminder for Elizabeth, when we're speaking to the mic, if we could try to speak slowly and clearly, and to always push your button because everything is being recorded. And that way Elizabeth can give us the word by word interpretation of what each of us is saying. So the meeting procedure today is after the review board presentation, the GNWT will describe its proposal in a short presentation and describe how it proposes to build and manage the project, including its plans to manage and handle any adverse impacts. GNWT staff from the project team are here today to answer the questions about the project, and we'll have them introduce themselves. Do you want to do it now, Seth, or do you want to do it when the presentation is going to start? Okay, you could do it at the presentation when it's ready to start. Thank you. Additional representatives from the GNWT and Government of Canada are present at today's hearing to listen to what you have to say. These individuals will not make presentations today, but may be able to answer questions that community members may have at the discretion of the board chair. We have a representative from each government, and in my notes here, Seth, I guess you're supposed to introduce yourselves today and also the people that you have online. So feel free to go ahead and do that.
Oh, testing. Thank you very much, Chair. Seth Wannett, I am the Director of Strategic Infrastructure for the GNWT's Department of Infrastructure, and I provide oversight for the Mackenzie Valley Highway Project Environmental Affairs team. With me here today at the table is Patricia Coyne. She is the Manager of Environmental Affairs for the MVH project. And also in the room with me today, we've got Erica and Jennifer. Erica is with Callow Stantec, Jennifer's with DPRA, and they are our two lead consulting firms that have been providing support and helping us to prepare and manage the environmental assessment process. I can't see who's online, so I unfortunately can't introduce them, but if there's a way to have them introduce themselves, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thanks. Is there anyone online from the GNWT that would like to introduce themselves? Okay, if not, then we'll just move on.
Hey, hello.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hey, yeah, we have some environmental analysts from the Mackenzie Valley Highway here. We have myself, Andrew Lorette, and also Anita Uga.
Okay, thank you. Yes, just a reminder to please put your phones on silent or turn them off. Thank you. The sessions today will be recorded through Zoom, and the review board will be making the recordings available on the public registry on our website shortly after the session. This will allow our board members who are not present to hear what you have to say, as well as other parties who are not here today in attendance. Please use a microphone for all questions and responses so that everyone can hear you online, as well as in the room. Please remember to say your name before you speak, and I also ask you to speak slowly and clearly, as I had mentioned before, to allow for Elizabeth to translate. One moment, please. They're just checking with the translation. I wish I knew a joke to tell you, but I'm boring. I don't have any good jokes.
Madam Chair, there are a few other government representatives online. So maybe just before the presentation, Seth might want to just get them to introduce themselves again, those who didn't introduce themselves already.
Okay, GNWT online, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Alison Heslop. I am the manager of the Project Assessment Branch with the GNWT Department of Environment and Climate Change. And with me is Ashvar Gaze, who is a project analyst with ECC PAD. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other GNWT?
Hi, my name is Melissa Pink. I am the Senior Impact Assessment Analyst with Health and Social Services. And I have Zoe Zweigenbaum with me as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any others?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Njerere. I'm an environmental assessment analyst with ECC here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other GNWT online? Okay, thank you. I'm just checking to see with the interpreters if that booth is working yet. One moment.
Madam Chair, we also have some federal representatives online if they want to introduce themselves. And we have some participants from other communities as well who might want to introduce themselves.
Okay, I'll just open it up then, and please introduce yourself for anyone else that's online.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Jennifer Sabrian here with Environment and Climate Change Canada. And with me, I believe I have our CWS, Bridget Campbell. Sorry, Bridget Campbell with CWS. And later on today, we will have Melissa Pinto with ECCC as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other federal government online?
Hi, here it's Clacus Fide from InterCan, Natural Resources Canada.
Okay, thank you. I think even with Starlink, there's a little bit of a delay in getting the message across. Anyone else online that would like to introduce themselves?
Good afternoon. My name is John Sexsmith. I am the lands coordinator for West Point First Nation, attending on behalf of West Point First Nation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Masi. My name is Jane Henderson. I am one of Pehdzéh First Nations lawyers. Alan Hanna was unable to attend this afternoon and sends his regrets.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else online? If not, we have one federal representative in the room with us here. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Chantal Gray. I work with Canor. My office is called the Northern Project Management Office. I am an acting project manager there. We're just here to collect the record of consultation. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that's all the introductions. Mark, can you see if there's anyone else online? Well, we'll just move right ahead.
I think we got everybody, and Lawrence Daly had put a note in the chat that he's happy to be joining us today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as I stated earlier, that we are here today to understand what you think about the potential impacts of the GNWT's proposed Mackenzie Valley Highway project. We need you to clearly share your views on the potential impacts from the project on the environment, on your community, and on your ability to practice your culture. The review board also asks you to present your views and opinions on how important these potential impacts are to you. We also hope that hearing the views of communities in this and other upcoming community sessions will provide an opportunity for the GNWT to adapt its proposed project, make commitments, and improve mitigation options prior to the end of the environmental assessment. The review board will fully consider the views that we hear today, as well as the other input we hear throughout the rest of the environmental assessment process, while making its decision in this EA.
Reminder. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that we will be taking photos as well as recording today. So please let us know if you're uncomfortable with that. But we are hoping to take photos. If there are opportunities or times during today where you don't want what you're saying recorded on the microphone, that's okay. Just let us know and we can accommodate that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opening remarks. I will now present the environmental assessment, steps of an environmental assessment, the agenda of today, and after me, GNWT, the developer, will present the project. So just as a brief reminder to everyone, an environmental assessment generally is a process for making decisions about a project. So the main question we ask is the project likely to have impacts that matter on the land and the people? And here on the slide, you have two photos of past projects that we have done that were the Tlicho Highway and the Acadie Mine. So here's a slide that also shows all the steps. I know it's a lot of information. I'll try to go to the main points. The Mackenzie Valley Environmental Review Board starts at step 3. And so before the assessments begins, the developer usually plans the project, then sends that to preliminary screening that decides whether or not the project should go to environmental assessments. Then we begin our work. So for the Mackenzie Valley Highway, in 2013, the project was referred to environmental assessment. At this time, we did scoping, which meant that we came to communities and we asked what the most important issues are and what we should focus on. So on the next slides, we have photos of past scoping sessions that we did. So the first photo is obviously from Wrigley. We also went to Lira. We went to Normanwell. And we also went to Fort Good Hope at the time because when the project was referred to environmental assessment, it was initially supposed to be a road from Wrigley all the way to Fort Good Hope. From the scoping sessions, the developer issued a terms of we issued a terms of reference that defines what information we want from the developer. And after that first terms of reference, the developer reviewed the project and decided that finally it was not going to go all the way to Inuvik, but stop in Norman Wells. And so between 2013 and today, the developer was working on what we called the developer's assessment report, which provides all the information about the project and its impacts. So that's the stage we are in now. We are in what we call the analysis phase. Our role is to gather as much information possible so our board members can take the best decision. And there are many ways we can gather information. We did it in the past few months through information requests, so just in a written format. Today we are here to host this community session and hear from you orally. And there'll be other chances to ask questions after today. We might have a second round of information requests. We will have technical sessions in Yellowknife, which is sessions that focus on very specific and technical details. And then we obviously will have the hearing towards the end of the environmental assessment, which is a second opportunity to come. follow up. On the next slide here, bringing it back to today, this is the session's agenda.
Sorry. Just it's Natasha here. Just before we change gears, were there any questions about that for Clementine? About the process, the environmental assessment process? I think one of the things I heard was definitely that it's important you know this is not your only time to offer your input, your concerns, your issues, your recommendations. As she said, that this is one of several opportunities. Any questions? Lizzie?
Thanks, Natasha. So yeah, here's the agenda for today. You will also on the desk, there are several copies of the agenda and as well as the presentation. So here we are at the review board presentation, halfway through the slide. And then as I mentioned, the GNWT will present the Mackenzie Valley Highway project. And after that, we'll start our open discussion. And so during this open discussion, elders, traditional knowledge holders, and land users are invited to share their expertise, insights, questions, comments, concerns, as well as solutions. So on the next few slides, I have Are there any areas of special concern along the proposed route? And is there any more?
Check 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Mic check. 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 That's a little better. It's not very loud though. Check 1, 2. Mic check. Just barely, eh?
We could hear that well online, just FYI.
Check 1, 2. Check.
hear her.
Oh, ito translation da tsau go ti da is ya mi tene ke kon tene te ka te le na ka ti ta wa tsa hin na ka tsa ta ti ne ta ni masi.
This to you so that when they have a question,
Yeah.
you can explain it in English. Okay, sorry about all this, but that's the way things go sometimes. So we'll hand it off to Seth, Patricia.
Testing. Everybody can hear me good? Yes?
We could hear you online.
We're all good? If you guys don't mind, I am going to stand up because I'm just a little bit more comfortable and that way I can actually see my slides. The first thing I wanted to do was thank the community for hosting. I know there's a lot of familiar faces here that myself and the project team have had the pleasure of working with over the last couple of years. We've had a few very good productive meetings. Right now, as defined, would provide all season access extending Highway 1 from here in Wrigley to Norman Wells. Our goal is to try and minimize the environmental footprint of the project, which is why we intend to try and follow the existing winter road alignment as much as we possibly can. And for those of you that have traveled the winter road, you're very familiar with the existing one section being from Wrigley to the Satu-Decho border, one section from the border to Toledo, and then a section between Toledo and Prohibition Creek, which is just south of Norman Wells and already has access or all-season access from Norman Wells. It's anticipated that each section would take approximately 3 years to build, following its own period to acquire the regulatory permits, the land use permits and water licenses. So the entire project is proposed to take 10 years of on-the-ground construction over a little bit longer period of 15 to 20 years, depending on how funding becomes available to build the project and our regulatory processes go. Am I going too fast? Good, perfect. Next slide, please. As Clementine had mentioned in her slide, the scoping process that occurred back in 2013, there was a bunch of engagement that happened with the various communities along the Mackenzie Valley Highway route to help define the assessment criteria that would inform the environmental assessment and to develop that terms of reference. It was alluded to that the GNWT has been working diligently since that point in time to collect the information and compile all the data to inform the EA since that time. I would preface the fact that we actually didn't receive funding to complete the environmental assessment until 2018. So the on-the-ground work, the heavy lifting, started in 2018. That's when we brought on our consulting team. We established our internal team, and we've started doing some more fulsome engagement with communities and stakeholders. That's when we started doing all of the baseline studies, the environmental studies, socioeconomic studies, and the public engagements to inform the EA. All of that information has been compiled into what's called the Developer's Assessment Report. The Developer's Assessment Report it details what the project description is in very fulsome details. It provides an overview of what we as the GNWT have heard from the communities and from the review board are the key components we have to try and assess and understand from an impact perspective. All the information we've collected on those potential impacts and all of the proposed mitigations that we've come up through dialogue with stakeholders and communities and technical experts, subject matter experts, on how we would try to maximize the benefits of the project and minimize any of those negative impacts to the extent possible. That's all captured in the Developer's Assessment Report, which we submitted to the review board back in, I believe it was October of last year. We do have copies of a non-technical version, so a summarized version. We have hard copies here. If anybody would like a copy at any point, we do have some. So they're a summary of the findings to date and the summary of that Developer's Assessment Report. Next slide, please. So I would, again, like to put the emphasis on the fact that the information that we've compiled to date has been informed by a lot of extensive engagement with various different community organizations, Indigenous governments, renewable resource councils, public engagements. The original heavy, I wouldn't say heavy, but the original project description engagements was again back before we referred the project to environmental assessment. And most recently, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've been doing very extensive heavy engagement focused on what are the impacts of the project, what are our potential mitigations, the things that we're going to do to try and reduce negative impacts, and what future monitoring programs are necessary or planned in order to make sure that we can adapt or modify moving forward. The developer's assessment report also includes references to how traditional knowledge has been used or collected and is being used to help inform not only the design of the project itself, but the monitoring programs and the mitigations that we're proposing. We have collected traditional knowledge specifically from the Toledo Renewable Resources Council and the Northern Wells Renewable Resources Councils. We have been working with the Pehdzéh First Nation to help collect more traditional knowledge and help inform the project moving forward. Those conversations. Next slide, please. All of the technical details of the developer's assessment report, because again, I think the most important thing today is for the board to hear from you guys. But I do want to highlight some of the notable findings that have been provided in that developer's assessment report. Very generally, most of the residual effects of the project, so the residual effects are the effects after our mitigations have been implemented. So if there's something that has a potential to have a negative impact, how are we going to try and minimize and prevent that? And what is the impact after that? Most of those have been determined to be not significant. So while they could have impact, they're not a major significant impact. There are some, however, that have been deemed to be significant that will require additional work and additional monitoring and potentially adaptive management in the future. Next slide, please. Generally, we've heard throughout our engagements and throughout our conversations to date that people see the need and the rationale for why this project should advance. There is a desire to see it built. But again, there is concern from communities, local communities and regional communities on how socioeconomic impacts can be mitigated. There are specific concerns with potential for increased drug and alcohol use in communities or availability and pressures in the communities. And we've heard loud and clear that there's concern about potential injuries or traffic accidents with increased traffic in the regions coming from the project. What we have put forward as a recommendation is a development of a community readiness strategy. One of the biggest themes we continuously hear is while we want to see the project advance, we want to make sure, and we heard loud and clear from Chief Moses earlier this morning, that the communities are able to take advantage of the project and benefit from it directly. So what we've proposed is to work with the communities, community organizations, to develop a community readiness strategy, to put together some working groups, and to define what needs to be put in place before construction starts, during construction, and for operation and maintenance. Sorry. From the wildlife or biophysical sort of side of things, so more of the environmental theme, we've determined or proposed that the mitigation measures that we've identified, including the development of a wildlife management monitoring program, will be sufficient and effective at preventing significant wildlife effects or significant effects to air quality, noise, permafrost, and other key indicators. We have identified that the impact of the project on boreal caribou habitat will be significant, but we note that that is indicative of or because of the fact that the availability of boreal caribou habitat right now is already negatively impacted. So the baseline condition is already a concern. So that has been flagged and identified. We have identified and heard that there's concern that the project will improve access for harvesting and access to traditional land use areas, so that's a positive for local residents. But we've also heard that there's a concern that there could be potential for over harvesting from outside of the regions. These are types of things that we want to, again, make sure that we have the proper controls in place to manage. Next slide, please. I won't get into too much detail on this one, but as Clementine already mentioned, again, the board process is well underway. We're currently in the analytical phase. So I referenced that we submitted our developer's assessment report, that comprehensive collection of information and data, to the board last October. The board undertook a review of the developer's assessment report and determined that we had provided all of the information that was requested in the terms of reference. We met conformity with what was expected. And then it went out, or the board took it on the road or published it and asked for feedback from the public if there was any questions, comments, or concerns. Through that process, we received and responded to 141 comments from the public. And most recently, we had 100 and I believe it was 58, not 61. 161 information requests, which are formal written requests for additional information or clarification on the project and what was included in that report. All of this information, by the way, is publicly available. It is on the board's public registry. So if anybody's interested, you could go in, you could see what questions have been asked of us and what information we've provided to respond to those questions. In addition, the board did do a round of public engagement, I believe back in February. I won't speak for the board. We did participate in some of those sessions in some of the communities as well, again, to provide a little bit of an overview of the project. Next slide, please. Some of the key themes that came up through those processes, through the information requests in particular. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. Some of the key themes that we heard in the information requests in particular, there were several questions about our construction schedule. In particular, again, of course, our current proposed schedule is to build it in phases over a long period of time. That is intended to maximize benefits from employment and training and the business and economic opportunities that come with construction, as well as the probability of us securing funding to build the project. But we heard and we have and continue to hear that there's a lot more urgency for the project. So there's a desire for it to be built faster is what we're hearing. So we have provided some information as a proposed alternative to that construction schedule that suggests that provided we have a satisfactory completion of the environmental assessment, that we're able to secure all of our permits and authorizations, and that we are able to secure the funding necessary, we could build the project a lot faster. But again, we're not necessarily banking on it. There's a lot of uncertainties and contingencies there that need to come into play. So we're continuing to advance the project as proposed. We heard concerns, a lot of technical questions on engineering and design of the road. At this point in time, design is only about 30% complete. We have in process right now, we have a team that's coming together to help do more design work. We're working with communities to, again, refine the alignment, make sure we're going where we're supposed to be going, and that we're identifying all of the technical constraints that'll allow us to build the road properly. We had questions about traditional knowledge, how it's been collected, how it's been incorporated to date, and how additional traditional knowledge can be incorporated. We responded to all of those. Again, I put the emphasis on the fact that what's in the DAR is reflective of the information at the time. We continue to engage with all of the communities, all of the Indigenous organizations, all of the stakeholders, and as more information becomes available, we will provide it through the EA process to help inform continuous improvement on our proposal, mitigations, to make the project the best project we can deliver. I'm jumping all over the spot here. Oh, yes. So we do, again, we have heard concerns, we continue to hear concerns about potential alignment and where the road will actually finally be built. Again, we have ongoing engagement to help inform that. We have been working hand in hand with the Pehdzéh First Nation to do some additional studies to help refine and define that realignment. So that's ongoing work that, again, could help inform the final design of the project once that information is made available. I think I mixed the last two slides together, so I'll just jump ahead again. Next steps. So again, as mentioned, the review board is currently in the process of doing our community engagements. I believe there's some technical sessions planned for next month, and then hearings early next year. We're anticipating right now that the environmental assessment process will be completed mid-year next year. I think that's the current work plan from the board. From a purely project perspective, our team is continuously engaging, so ongoing engagement, both as part of the board's process and as the developer. We're continuing to work with communities, both on the EA work as well as the design work that's needed to be done before construction can advance. We're continuing to lobby Canada for funding. Again, we do not have the funding to actually build the project yet, but we are continually trying to secure that. We're anticipating that pending the outcome of the environmental assessment, it'll probably be about another 12 to 18 months before we would be able to secure water licenses and land use permits necessary, all the regulatory authorizations that would allow us to advance to construction. And of course, if everything went perfectly, we would hope to start having boots on the ground and construction activities happening towards the end of 2027 in a perfect world. In closing, this last slide, I wanted to just again reference the ongoing engagement that we are doing. As part of the project mitigations, we've talked about the development of a community readiness strategy, planning to work with communities to make sure we're addressing socioeconomic impacts. Our team is heavily invested right now in getting into the communities, talking to residents, talking to the Indigenous governments, local businesses, and other stakeholders to help determine if that is the right approach to be using moving forward. And if so, start planning towards that. So we have proposed that we would have that in place a year before construction starts, which isn't a long ways away. We're hearing regularly that there's more urgency and a need to do that sooner, to have those conversations now. And we're working towards that with all of the various communities and Indigenous groups. So at this point in time, again, I'm happy to take any quick questions. Yeah, as a project team, as the proponent, we want to make sure you guys are involved. We want to make sure you have every opportunity to know what we're planning and help inform it. Again, our goal is to maximize benefits for you guys and make sure that we deliver the best project we can. With that, maybe I'll pause for any questions. I don't know how long that took.
That wasn't too bad, Seth. So for the rest of the afternoon, we would like to open it up for discussion. We want to hear from community members. We want to hear from leadership. We want to hear from elders. We want to hear from youth, from women. And our role, my name is Joanne Barnaby again, and this is Natasha Thorpe, and Hannah is back over there. And we're independent from the board, and our role is to assist the community, the process, with ensuring that you have an opportunity to bring forward your questions about the project, your concerns about the project, whether they're positive or negative, and to help the board through a report that we will prepare to understand what your concerns are and to ensure that as much information is available as possible in this very short end of the day. And it really is such a short period of time that we have for this discussion. And so I'm sure there'll be other opportunities in the future to continue the conversation, and it's definitely not the end of it. So whatever opportunities you can find and create to continue to raise the issues that you have, the concerns that you have, please come forward with recommendations that will really give guidance to the review board for how they can consider the project in a positive way with your recommendations. So we'd like to call on community members to offer your comments, your questions. Oh, somebody's online. Yes.
Can you?
Sharon.
I just want to bring up there are some members online. They're there for to offer some comments and maybe some questions. As you can see, we have Keith Nayeli on, and I'm not sure who else. So Keith, if you want to speak at any time, just let the chair know, and then you can say a bit about your concerns surrounding the Mackenzie Valley Highway and the current route. Thanks.
Okay. I just joined in. I just joined here, so I have no idea what your topic is about right now. So I'll just listen in for now.
Okay. Is there anyone else online that would like to say anything, raise any concerns? I understand, Lawrence, you're online as well. Lawrence Nayeli, are you online? Okay, if you're not,
we'll return to the room for now. And those that are online that want to say something, please feel free. Okay. We have in the room, we have former Chief Tim Lenny. That's what I said. Tim? No, no, no. I've known Tim forever. I'd say I've known him about 50 years. Yeah. So Tim, feel free.
Thank you that I'm amongst you here today. Good to see all of you. Must see you've all arrived safely. My name is Tim Lenny. Yes, I've been a former chief of Pehdzéh First Nation. Just being what you call it, more of a normal person, I guess. I've become a citizen, so kind of stayed out of the politics for quite some time. Very interesting. There is a reason, I guess, I'm sitting here. I was actually out at setting up a little camp for the kids here today, but nobody arrived, so here I am. But I did read up, there is, this was happening yesterday, and I'm trying to get a little bit more interested. It's been since 2015, 2013, 15, since I've engaged in any of the discussions in regards to Mackenzie Highway. As I sat back here just a while ago, same old thing, nothing's changed. Same thing said back then, it's still said today. So how serious are we? How serious is the government? A lot of talk, no action. Like old Cease used to say, many of the elders. So too much talk. But on top of that, I only speak for Pehdzéh First Nations membership. I'm not a chief anymore. I'm actually adopted into the community many years ago, made me a chief. And I don't have, as they say, inherited rights in this territory. And when I sat as a chief and I sit today, I sit from the outside, see what the two groups are doing. What is the government offering to the community? What has the community have been saying? Been over 40 plus years. The late Wrigley Band, now the Pehdzéh First Nations, stopped the highway probably about 10 kilometers out of the community here. Till I forget what year they pushed it here. At that time, the issues are the same as today. In unsettled territory. You're in Pehdzéh Day now. It has not been surrendered, released, extinguished in any way. So how do you deal with that as a government? That's the sticky part. I understand that a review board does not deal with the political realm of the community. But we're still back in the 70s here. Still dealing with the people's rights of this territory. The community pretty well has to beg for capacity so they can do their due diligence in giving you some positive feedback as a collective. But what I'm hearing today at these sessions, instead of talking to the collective as Indigenous people, that's how we operate. You speak with the individuals. These young people need to get together here as a collective. Traditional knowledge have passed on. A lot of our members that actually have the traditional knowledge of their ancestral lands have passed on. Pehdzéh First Nation has a land use plan. I'm quite certain the GNWT and the governments don't understand what I'm talking about, because we collectively worked on that. It was refused because in 2006 it didn't meet current legislation and regulations of the government. So it had to get redrafted. Amina Hezekonde. Who's talking to the community about these things? You're sitting amongst some very influential people here today. They're descendants of the original people, very young. This is the first that they're going to hear of what I'm talking about. So, as a former chief, I reflect on what happened in devolution with devolution. Now you're dictating to the people, this is where it's going to go. I had a few scribbles here. Back in the day, since I started, like I says, I'm raised in Toledo and very fortunate I was been able to represent the Pehdzéh First Nations over the years. Never once there was any boundaries between us. Our government comes up and says we have a boundary. I asked, where does that come from? All those lines between the communities and the regions were settlement areas. Initially, they were just established because of dialect and language. Becoming like South Africa, where they're one nation, but they're still separated from their neighbors down the road because of their boundaries. So me and my blood family have issues. Now we're getting territorial. So on the political realm, on the political side, this is where I see the issue is. So the question for me is where you get access. Or do you have the authority as a government to expropriate? So I smile because I don't have the answer to those things. And those are the political questions. We're in unsettled territory. People are dealing not as citizens or immigrants. You're dealing with people who have inherited rights within this territory. Now you define that for me. These young people can define who they are as inherited rights holders. These young people. So over the years as a leader, I've always been told, as long as I'm here, don't let the people relinquish, extinguish, cede, surrender the land. So that's the only message I have. It's not a personal thing. I have no personal interest. We were involved in the Mackenzie Valley PDR work. The community has actually had a little political squabble with the GNWT because they wanted the region or some other outfit out there to do it. But we had to argue that we had to do the PDR work. So we actually had the PDR work here. Over the years, the Pehdzéh First Nation has a plan. And the governments really wanted to engage with the people and provide them with the capacity. All this information could be provided. What are the options you have? When we done the Industrial Land Use Plan and Pehdzéh done its plan, Pehdzéh First Nation is the only community that has an energy corridor. The energy corridor was to put all the infrastructure, whether it's highways, railway, pipelines, anything that was big together. So you don't open up too much land. All these little roads that go into it, you can shut them all off. I might save you a few bucks here. You thank me later. There's a big chunk of real estate, I guess, or if you really look at, I mean, what is the urgency, with Norman Wells, at $6 a liter of gas for fuel or whatever it is today? Don't seem like the government's too urgent. By the time you finish the highway to Norman Wells, is that going to be the norm in regards to the fuel? By that time? So another 10 years from now, we're paying $6 a liter. When the elders talked about the energy corridor, they wanted not the highway to come through here, but they wanted it on their Enbridge line beside it. We've done a study. I know one of the guys done. probably about 30 years ago, even running a railway along that right of way. Fossil fuel, the taps have been shut off by the government. Normal wells are shutting down. Pipeline going dry. They have a right of way there. It's wide open. Why you want to open more land? Is this road specifically, what route you actually discussing? Is your report specifically to the Winter Road project today? Is that that idea? Or are you looking at the rerouting that the community done? What is this assessment for? So I guess I'm trying to wrap it around in my head. There are options out there that people talked about 30 years ago, 40 years ago. We've done economic development all through Mackenzie Valley. So it'll be up to the community here to really review and activate their Pehdzéh land use plan. Because the Winter Road as today where it is passes through some very site-specific areas, very sensitive. Not only to campsites, but also to wildlife. So that alone will affect a lot of. But you do have another option, that's what I'm looking at. The chief brought it up because, thank him for that, Jamie. For us to move forward as a community needs to be in the context of reconciliation. Everything we do today. So the governments would need to get the community resources so they can get the capacity to do their homework for themselves. This is not a short-term gain. We only probably about over 300 members under the ban list, and you have half of them living here with a very big territory, very big territory. Wrigley alone, 300 plus members, has a treaty with Canada. So you can wrap that around your political brain and see how that all sounds, how you view that. But we have our work cut out for us. Even if we were to get this road through, and we wanted all the opportunities, we wanted the nurse, we need protection, we need nurse, we need all these resources we had, these services we had. The community need those. This next generation need those services, this community. It's very costly. And if you think this road is for the goodwill of the people, don't kid yourself. This road is actually out to get the last of the riches. That's what it's about. But at the end of the day, our people are going to need opportunities. This road is just a short-term opportunities. It's going to open up their lands to other development, squatters. Now, and then as you can, the elders always says to the young people in the past, he says, make sure you really take good care of the land, especially the water and the animals. That's so we have the same warning of as many other First Nations communities from our elders. No difference. Later on in the future, our young people, you may think they're holding pen and doing all this, and wait till they get to her age, and then they're going to start making dry meat and stuff. Getting back in the bush. Because you work in a career, so when you get retirement, so we have to go back to the land with our children, grandchildren. So that was the whole intent of hanging on to the land. So that's some unsettling things that I've been trying to wrap around in my brain. And like I said, it's been over 10 years for sure, plus since I've had anything to say. There is the PDR work that has been done. There are information of what people said then. And if the people weren't serious about the road itself, they would not have participated in the rerouting itself. But going back to the Enbridge line, look into it. There are other options. There are other opportunities. And you know, the government just got about over 700 million at number 2019 or something on Mackenzie Highway. And looking at a little 3-month course here on heavy equipment, which was pitiful anyway. So that's all that actually happened. So going to have to ask for some more money, they said, trying to get that out there. So other than that, this is only one voice, and there's many out there. So just an opinion I had. I just thank you for listening. Masi.
Thank you so much, Tim. Are there other comments? Are there elders that would like to add anything, their own comments, your own views on the project? Yes? Jonas? Jonas Antoine?
Masi Chong, Lai Tati, Chong, say me kele, a Yokose, Kandi, a con cotatene on there, a con village on there. I'm here with my brother-in-law, Tony Visitia. He's what I call Bekele. In our language, it means the real deal. He's it. You know, he's part of what we're talking about. And I really appreciate that. I have been adopted by Tony's family, and I moved in with them. And right now, it's only Tony and I at his area. So I feel that because Tony doesn't speak the language and he has it's hard to understand, hard understanding too. So I feel that I have a responsibility to let him know what's going on, and that if I speak, hopefully that I can be speaking for him too. You know, I look at the GNWT presentation on the next steps. You know, I'm really surprised that this has been going on for 50 years and we're still where we are 50 years ago. And if anything, it's going to take 10 years before you turn over the first shovel full of dirt. You know, this is like an urgency type thing there, and we feel that something like this, you know, can be, you know, it should be far advanced by now, and if not, things can be speeded up. You know, uh, Tony and I were sitting on the highway one time a few years ago. It was during the winter, and the big trucks were going by, lots of them, one after another. And Tony's sitting there shaking his head. I said, yes, yeah. I said, what? He said, well, Miss Chancellor, was a lot of trucks, he says. And this was the middle of winter, you know. And that's the only seasonal thing there that happens at that period of time, you know. But can you imagine something like that going if the highway becomes an all season road, what kind of traffic we're going to have and what kind of impact's going to be? There's a lot of things that has to be considered, you know. Tony, for example, he cares. He tells me little things that I can understand. And he's really, really tied to the land and his love for the land and where he was born. You know, old traditional places, you know, you can see where the old buildings used to be, you know, the basements and stuff like that. One time, a few years ago, we had a little bobcat that we used in our area, and I was moving some dirt, leveling ground, and he comes running over and he stopped me. He said, no, no. He's pointed to the ground there. I looked, and there's that square you can see where a house used to be. And apparently this is where my brother-in-law was born, and he didn't want me to touch it. That was his attachment to the place, you know. So I can see where he comes from when he looks at me sometimes and tells me little things that he's concerned about. You know, and these are the type of things that were overlooked over the years. You know, recently we heard the word reconciliation that Chief Jamie brought up, and I think through these things, and it really concerns me that there's something really, really deeply missing when you try to make that connection, them and us reconciling. Because if you take a piece of paper like this, and you put two lines like this, the top is pre-contact, the bottom is now. At what point are you reconciliating? At what time? At what point are you reconciling? If it's over here, fine. If it's over here, you miss a great deal. And this is where we're reconciling what we can remember going back in our memory. It goes way, way beyond that. And this is what, you know, I'm reminded of that, this picture when Tony, my brother-in-law, brings up little concerns like the base of his house where he was born. And this is where the governments have to go dig deep and look at even further than just a word reconciliation. It goes way beyond that. You know, back in 1921 when we made an agreement with the government to live with us. The elders back then said there were two entities there. There was them, us, and God. And that carries through eternity, you know. It goes way, 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 way back. There's always a spirit that goes with it. And there's great, great power that overlooks these things. And when you don't consider that, you don't think about those things there, you're missing something and you don't feel good about it. You have to go back and do many, many things before you. Chief Tim Lenny, he's concerned about the things that I'm concerned about too. Like, for example, Pehdzéh here has a land use plan. Techo has a land use plan. Where are we using, where do we fit in with a project such as this, you know? Because the land use plan is unfinished. Our negotiations are unfinished. We still have the land, we still have the waters and the lakes. And you got to think about all those things there, you know. So when Chief Jamie talks about, you know, we want the best we can for our people, we can get for our people, it goes way beyond just those words there. You got to think very, very deeply and accommodate, you know. So I'm just kind of feel like I'm rambling on. I'm trying to make a point that there's a deep connection, that there's something that is there that we have to look at yet, you know. But I can see the urgency, the need for our brothers and sisters downriver, what they want, what they need. But you also have to consider what kind of an impact it's going to have on a small community like Pehdzéh, because the highway is going to be within their community boundary if it goes as planned. You got to think about that. And Tony all practically lays his head on the highway when he sleeps. Like in the words of the late George. AG, I married into the family. I did a traditional move, which is I moved in with a family that I'm married into. And that's the way it is. And I still have the land where I come from. And Ernest has a concern about that. And what I talk about, I feel like I'm a part of it because I am a part of it now. And I feel like I'm a part of the Tonka family, the Bush family, all the families that occupy the land. Because when I pray to all those people that occupy the land, and they look after me. So I hope I made a little point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonas. It was good to hear from you. One of the things that we wanted to check on is whether all of the families that have an interest that where their traditional territory is are present here, and if they're not all here, who's missing? The board will want to hear from everyone whose territory is being affected, and so having a clear understanding about who is here and who's not here is important. Seth, a couple of people now have raised the question of the land use plan and whether or not your project is following that plan or proposed plan, and whether there is room to reconsider routes that would bring it closer to the draft plan. Seth?
Just checking to make sure the mic works. Seth Juanette, GNWT. The idea of the route itself right now, as proposed in the developer's assessment report, we have established a corridor, which is approximately 1 kilometer wide, generally following the established winter road alignment. And as mentioned earlier, as we work to finalize design and with further dialogue with various stakeholders, there's room within that 1 kilometer corridor to make adjustments and make revisions to the alignment. We've also got work underway directly with Pehdzéh First Nation to do some exploratory work on potential changes to the alignment a little bit more broadly. That work is underway. We haven't got that finalized yet, but once that information's available, we'll make that available as well to help inform any potential revisions that are necessary. But for right now, the project as proposed follows the winter road alignment generally, plus or minus within that 1 kilometer corridor. Again, our goal is to minimize any new footprint disturbance. Again, we want to minimize any habitat loss. There already is a corridor there to facilitate the winter road alignment, so that allows us to maximize or minimize the additional disturbance necessary. There are some areas where we know we're going to have to deviate, so we have heard concerns from community members about moose pastures in particular, that we're open to moving the road to circumvent to the extent that we can. And we're also open to additional engagement and dialogue. So we do have map books available that show the current route where it's included in the developer's assessment report. I've heard things about, culturally sensitive areas and historical sites. As that information is made available to us, we have the ability to make adjustments.
There's a question apparently online. Somebody's, I think Lawrence. You're muted. Is that Lawrence? Keith Nieli? No, it's not. Keith Nieli. You're muted. We can't hear you. You need to turn your microphone on. Keith.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Could a GMOT person wave their hand so I can know who he is? I just kind of okay. I want to say a few things here. It's going to be blunt and straightforward. I'm not going to waste you guys' time and my time. From what I know and heard, like what Timmy was saying, that land claim hasn't been settled. So that's a good question to put into this highway route or all-weather route. And also, the current, like somewhere that GMOT person was saying was that the current route is the 1 kilometer corridor isn't the greatest from certain areas on our winter road, because most areas north of Wrigley, it's all clay. And that thaws out in the springtime, the summertime it thaws out, And in the wintertime, it's like concrete. You can't work that. Summertime, you can't work that because it's like soup. Take an example like Bob's Canyon. That straight route there they're trying to be doing for how many years? Summertime, they can't do anything. It's like soup. And in wintertime, they can't do nothing. It's like concrete. How are you supposed to do that to build a highway along that route? Because that route, everybody knows, is all on a slant towards a river, and that's a perfect angle for the sun to hit that part of the route, which thaws it out. Look at Smith Creek. Look at the whole area, the whole portion is sliding down. Look at the bridge. The bridge was one time was straight. Now it's facing downward, and the highway like a zigzag, just trying to get out of there. Also on top of that, just south of that, look at that highway, just off that, just on the edge of the right-way highway. The whole land is sliding. That's all clay. Take that into perspective. Think about that. That's been causing a lot of problems down the road. So what I know, PKFN wants our highway rerouted, for example, to save all the troubles down the road. I know for a fact that's how it is. It's all clay down there. I've been on that winter road. I hunted on the winter road with my dad when I was a kid. We hunted on the winter road. I know how it is. We walked. We stopped on the river, walked here and there. I know how the land is. It's all clay. There's no gravel down that way. Nothing to keep it stabilized. So that rerouting, for me, I agree to that. I'm 100% for that. Not that 1 kilometer corridor. That's nothing. You can't get a kilometer. There's some areas where it's like 100 meters to the river. Where's the other 900 meters can go into the river? Only one way you're going to go is to the east of that. That's all clay. You're wasting money and time trying to build a road on clay. And also that GMOT has to have agreed to PKFN's wishes and what PKFN wants that way, because they know that everybody in Wrigley knows that land better than the government. All they know is what's on paper and what their engineers and scientists give them. They don't know the history. They don't know what happened down the road, back in the past. There's landslides that happen. We travel along the river. We know all the landslide areas. We know what it's like. So for now, I've been hearing the news that there's a town declared emergency petroleum, whatever emergency number was, but that just that one town. All the others they're okay. Seems like it. No other communities saying they're declaring emergency. As long as we know everything's flown up there by air. And everything, people are smart up there. They stock up over the winter road. But the only community that I heard on the radio this morning was GMO, Norman Wells isn't supported by GMOT's petroleum network. That's the only town. Everywhere else is up to that GMOT owns the fuel. They bring the fuel in, but not Norman Wells. That's the only community. And they're saying they give them over $1 million for relief. That's nothing. Every community gets like maybe 30,000. That's nothing for freight. That's nothing. They got to look at it long term. Even right now, I'm living in Alberta. I can see the flow of what happens here. It rains here. I know the waters can go up in the MOT. Nothing. Hardly any rain all summer. I went up there. I was up there recently. I went on the river. No water. There's rocks sticking over. I didn't even see them in my lifetime. So if things want to go the way the GMOT wants to build a highway, Wrigley is the last stop. Wrigley is the last stop. They should have what Wrigley wants and what Wrigley knows about the route. They know. The people know. I know. I lived there. I was born and raised there. And I know for a fact that route and any highway in the MOT, the GMOT has a right to that route. Not only MOT, everywhere in Alberta. Alberta government owns that highway. They maintain it and stuff like that. So from what the GMOT used to do before, what I read and what I heard the premier saying, okay, this used to be how the government used to work. And now we want to work with the First Nations. Well, start working with the First Nations. Start working with First Nations that things will get them done. The First Nations know better than GMOT. The government may own the money, but the First Nations own the land. Don't forget that. We were born and raised there. We walked that land. We hunted that land. GMOT didn't do that. They don't do nothing like that. That's all I wanted to say. Just make sure that GMOT follows and accepts PKFN's wishes and agreements to what they want route on the new route. The current route is not good. It's too close to the river. You have spells. You have it all time going down there. What if it rolls? What's going to happen? All that petroleum thing go to the river. They don't care what. GMOT don't care. Like, for example, I worked in Norman Wells a few years ago. We were building a crossing, ice crossing. We're drilling holes and we were pumping the water out onto the ice. There's a few holes that we come across. It was pure crude oil right underneath there. It was coming up. There was brown oil coming out of the water right in the Mackenzie River. And they told us, oh, you didn't see that. Is that what the GMOT likes for ESCO to do? Cover up, pollute the land. Those poor people down the river from Good Hope. All that crude oil is going underneath the ice flowing. They say it's natural. Well, I don't agree with that. They're polluting the people down there. Imagine the people in Good Hope drinking all that shit, all that oil. That's brown. Could see it brown. I got pictures of it. I seen it. But the contractor said, no, you didn't see that. They didn't want to lose that contract they have with ESCO to build the ice route. There's a lot of cover up. I know that. So if that highway is along the route close to the Mackenzie River, and you have it roll over a fuel truck, all that fuel's going to go into the river. That was another concern. That's why PKFN wants a highway to a higher ground, away from any water bodies, away on stable ground. That route from Wrigley to Blackwater is the closest that the highway is going to be among any other GMOT highway system. Everywhere else, Castle Bend to Simpson is way up in the way away from the river. Simpson to Hay River, the highway is way away from the river. But that road is the only one. Why is that? What they're trying to do? It doesn't matter. New roads don't matter. There's a pipeline road next to a pipeline. The pipeline's got, I know I've worked on a pipeline too. Just got to make that one side a little bit wider for the highway to accommodate the highway. It's not like you're going to clear cut the whole MOT just for a road like they do in Alberta for trees. It's just a one line. The others will grow back. Nothing. So I would say PK event words and whatever the PK event says should be honored by the Chimuti. Thank you for listening to me. Masicho.
Thank you, Wayne. I understand that Lawrence Nayeli is also online. Lawrence, are you there?
Yeah, hi everyone. I just wanted to say Masicho for this information session to be happening in our community. And I really appreciate what my cousin Keith had to say. In regards to the Mackenzie Valley Highway and just what's been shared today, it is factual that Pehdzéh First Nations is a sovereign nation, a treaty signatory, who are without a land claim agreement. And they are also part of the Decho region, who have not signed on to devolution. And the territorial government has been pursuing the idea of expanding this highway through unceded territory. And I'm just curious as to how that plays out politically when you're trying to develop a major public infrastructure like this. I think one of the concerns, and I've heard it this summer in the community with the low water levels and the impacts that's having on neighboring communities like Toledo and Normal Wells. And we get that the North wants to see an all-season road go through Wrigley to Normal Wells. But you know, the areas that Keith had mentioned, and we shared it at a community gathering earlier this fall, how the community wants to have a realignment work of that highway. And Keith raised some pretty genuine concerns that many local community members know about. It is a clay area. The further away from the Mackenzie River, the better. I imagine whoever did the work on this proposal probably already looked into structural passages beneath or above the road, the proposed roads. You see that in the south that are designed to facilitate safe wildlife movement across roadways. So this is just a suggestion. If this road ever does go through, whether those structures can be erected along the route to help mitigate the impacts to wildlife migration and breeding areas, such as black water and white sand. There's a lot of areas. And the community between Wrigley and Toledo is a high traffic area for a lot of wildlife, and the communities really rely on that wildlife. And so seeing that protected would be great. But as I understand, under federal law, whenever you're constructing public roadways, it's public. And so people have access to that road. And when you have access to that road, I would just like to know what kind of monitoring programs will be implemented to safeguard the traditional land use areas of the Pehdzéh Dene. Like I said, it's an unceded area. We haven't given up our lands or our treaty. We understand now the power of claiming to be a sovereign nation. And our sovereignty as a people is important, and maintaining the integrity and the health of our ecosystems in our area is vital to future generations. So I would just like to, for the record, ask the panel or the GNWT how they plan on to ensure that Pehdzéh, the traditional land use area of the Dene, will be protected from future exploration and industrial activities. Like, will that kind of authority go back to the First Nations? Because for a lot of people, the GNWT for a long time was an administrative arm of the federal government. And up until recently, through devolution, that authority that used to be in the hands of the federal government now has been given to the territorial government. And the community wants to work well with other nations and the territorial government, but eventually, whether we have land claims or not, I am certain that our sovereignty will still be intact as long as people like myself and other former leaders and current young generations know their rights and titles to that land. And I'm just curious whether authority would be governed and passed on to the Pehdzéh First Nations, because highways are important. We know that infrastructure is important for reducing the economic weight of the world. And they're also a gateway, an opening up for those possibilities of people just going in and, you know, building up cabins in sensitive areas, or, you know, going out on the land and just picking away at things that we would just want to be kept in place. So for me, it's really about safeguarding the community, because you're talking about a pretty massive construction through our area. And a lot of people have passed through previous pandemics. There's lots of history in that area. And I'm just a bit concerned about those sensitive areas and how, if a road goes through, how those concerns can be mitigated through proper protections. You know, the Pehdzéh First Nations have developed a pretty thorough and detailed traditional land use map that my cousin Michael Niali and many other elders in our community contributed to. And it's a powerful tool, and it's in the hands of the Pehdzéh First Nations, and along with the Decho land use plan. And whether, you know, I'm sure the GNWC is open to working with the First Nations and ensuring that those maps are used to identify these sensitive areas and areas of high impact due to development. So I hope that happens. But yeah, I think for me, GNWT wants to do this work through an area that's, yeah, has no land claim, is unceded, that has treaty rights, that are not signatories to devolution. So for me, as a young person from that community, I see down the road how that might implicate things. And I'm just hoping that, you know, things of that nature can be resolved through proper dialogue between the community, elders, leaders, and youth, and the GNWT, and if you must, the federal government. but the land is still there for our people for future uses, and I would just like to see it protected. But I understand the vitality and the importance of this infrastructure, and it's been ongoing for a very long time. But yeah, for me politically, I see some difficulties down the road potentially, but yeah, I just want to share that. And you know, Keith and our family, we have and many other families come from the Blackwater area, and we'd like to see that area being protected down the road as well, for community members. It's a high wildlife corridor. There's lots of moose, lots of caribou that are in that area, and you know, protecting them and their future is important, and the vegetation and the marine life that surrounds that lake and that river. But a couple of years ago on the Winter Road, there was a vehicle, I think it was a semi vehicle that had gone off the road and tipped. And there was concern whether it was carrying fuel or whatnot. Thankfully, there was no incidents reported in terms of leakage, but that's just one incident. And you open up that highway and it's going to be a lot of activity. And so ahead of that, I'm just curious what kind of plans the GNWT has in supporting Pehdzéh First Nations in creating the necessary infrastructure that will be needed to accommodate emergency scenarios down the road in terms of spillage, accidents, and what have you. We don't even have a fire hall. We do have a fire hall, but the fire truck doesn't work properly. We don't have an ambulance. We don't have no nurse, no doctor, no policing. And you know, you're far away. And sometimes the emergency services that are there don't get there in time. You know, sadly, my auntie is a good example of that. Last year, she could have been saved if the plane had gone into the community much more quicker. Unfortunately, that wasn't happening. So for me, you know, just thinking about down the road, if that were to happen to somebody, like, we would need to have the personnel and the infrastructure needed to assist in situations, especially emergency situations on that road. So things like that. And I'm just wondering about the economic benefits that they're willing to provide for our community if this road were ever to go through, you know, to assist in building up the community so community members can benefit from, you know, roadside gas stations or restaurants, stuff of that nature. There's a lot that goes into a big project like this. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the community members want to ensure that, you know, our people don't get overwhelmed with a big project like this. And I just wanted to share that and just thank you for your time, everyone. And yeah, I hope these discussions go further and produce some really good dialogue between our sovereign nation and the government of the Northwest Territories and potentially the federal government. I just wanted to say that and just masi. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence and Keith. I'm wondering if people could focus on any recommendations that you might have for this project. Is there anything that you've heard about today or in previous discussions that gives you ideas for what should be recommended to either prevent problems that have been identified or to deal with things like monitoring or guardians initiatives that would be more proactive. Is there anything along those lines that you could think of?
Lawrence here again. The wildlife passage over key wildlife activity areas like Blackwater, White Sand, all of those areas that are known by the local members as areas where there's high activity for wildlife. I would like to recommend that those structures be created on this highway, and also what the Pehdzéh First Nations have proposed in terms of realignment. I can't express how that's needed, because like Keith was saying, it's a high area for play, and it's not stable, I think, long term, especially given the climate warming up in the north. There's a lot of erosion along the Mackenzie Valley River, and it's just a matter of time before it reaches the existing corridor that is there now. And for that road to be real straight, if that were ever to happen. But yeah, that's my recommendations, and just really hear out the community members on their concerns. But yeah, Masi.
Hi, Jay Horsey, Councillor, PKFN. I just want to reiterate, and one recommendation we're always going to push and stand behind is the rerouting. As it is, the winter road is on clay, and it's all slope side leading into the Decho, the Mackenzie River, and evidence already seen by hunters, people that go on the river, as there's a lot of slumps and slides already happening, and it's guess where it's going? Right into the Mackenzie. And another impact is going to be after the fact when the highway is done and people are accessing it, and they're so close to the outflows going into the Mackenzie that we know where all the anglers are going to be coming from. They're already invading Fort Providence. And that's going to be like high activity areas just for fishing, because it's so close to the outflows that they're gonna have easy access to all these creeks, rivers, including Blackwater River, and we don't want to deal with that because they're hard to deal with. They think it's their divine right to access these areas. Also, most of our hunting is done on the river, and if there's going to be human activity on these, they're going to impede our harvesting rights if they're all hanging out by the mouths of rivers and outflows. And they're not going to be wearing most of the time blades, so we probably won't be seeing them or mistake them for, well, we don't really do that, mistake them for big game, right? So we might be friendly fire might happen. I doubt it, but I mean, it's just stuff like that that's really going to happen, and the social impacts are going to last throughout the project and after the project when people are accessing the highway. And the big elephant in the room right now is already hard drugs, and they're already been distributed up north, and we don't even have a highway yet. It's just on the winter road. And I just want to say again that the whole winter road right now is on clay, slope side to the Mackenzie. And some areas they try to straighten out, like Bob's Canyon Keith mentioned. It's always washing out every spring. And when we have high rainy seasons in the fall, it washes out away. And in the wintertime, there's not much you can do to it. Like he said, it's just like concrete. So there's always going to be an issue in those areas like that where they're all slope side. And constantly going to be repairing and fixing and repairing and fixing. Now, if you just move up up to where the big ravines are even narrower. You're going to have smaller bridges and less impact. You'll be on stable rock bed, and you'll have easier access to quarries along that Cap Mountain and in Slavery we call it Pehdzéh. I don't know what the Western name is for it, but the whole reroad will just decrease probably overall impacts by about 70 to 80% of all impacts, wildlife, social, sensitive areas, because most of our sensitive areas are along the outflows and where all the bridges are located right now. So just want to leave you guys with that.
Thank you so much. What's that? Oh, picking the pilots up. Oh, does that mean we got to go? Okay, not yet. We haven't heard from women. Yes. Okay, Sharon.
Okay, Masicho, thank you for coming to the community. My name is Sharon Pehdzéh. I'm Lands Director for the Pehdzéh First Nations here in the community, as well as a member. I've been hearing quite a bit of a lot of concerns. Pretty much captures everything that I wanted to speak. There are some points that I want to touch base on. I'll let my sister speak later for the women, but this is coming from Lance. Oh, you want to speak now? Can she speak now? I guess so. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Doris Pehdzéh. I just wanted to touch base on the social impacts. The first time they built the highway here, my father was speaking, and I was a teacher here, and the whole thing was about protecting the land, the animals, and then also the social impacts. At that time, we didn't have a nurse or a doctor. That's 50 years ago. We still don't have that. So I think this time we have to do something. And I think everyone that spoke before maybe touch base on the things that I was concerned about. So my concern is just the social impacts. But we don't have like a wellness worker. We don't have a nurse. We don't have a doctor. And what about emergencies? 50 years is a long time. I think that's all I want to say. Must see for listening.
I'm wondering about some of the other social impacts that I heard people talking about it elsewhere. Are there things about, say, the winter road that you notice are different when the winter road's open in terms of social impacts?
I just recently moved back here from Fort Simpson, so I'm not sure about, but I do come visit all the time. And there's lots of big trucks coming through. So things like that need to be looked at and considered, and maybe get things prepared for the community.
Hello? Yeah, one of the social impacts regarding the winter road is that we have truckers that practically don't abide by the, say we have students who cross the roads and stuff like that. And so if there was an accident and we don't have medical services provided, how would we be able to help them? And as well as, since they don't go by the, what was it? Because there's a 30-kilometer, yeah, they don't go by the laws of the road, and as well as the medical services that can't be provided.
For the record, can you state your name?
Oh, Counselor Nicole Hardesty.
Thank you. Sharon, did you want to complete your statement?
Okay, I know that the time is getting short and you guys have to leave right away. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I'm basically here to assist the community with some of the concerns that have come to light over the past several years, starting from 2012 with the PDR work right to when GWT called the project to EA, and also all the work that's been done to date, and also participating in this environmental assessment. It's been a lot on the community, and we've been trying our best to work forward, moving forward with the GWT and the other parties on how to best build this Mackenzie Valley Highway with the most least impacts. Now, I know GWT has been selling this project right across the NWT with a simple 1 kilometer corridor. And this has been an onset right from the beginning. So without the community's consultation, the corridor has not changed. To this date is still the same. And when we're talking about rerouting efforts with the GWT, we're going to go over and way off of this 1 kilometer corridor. So if you, I can just try to give you an idea and a picture of the current corridor right now down the winter road. All of the entire area is impacted. We're talking about wildlife. We're talking about traditional land use, sacred sites, cultural areas, burial grounds, and sensitive habitat areas. We're talking about water, fish, spawning areas. Everything is impacted within this 1 kilometer corridor. So we've been trying to work, and with the help of some funding from the GWT, we're trying to develop a rerouting efforts, I guess, and trying to minimize and lessen the impacts. How will this highway lessen these impacts on our way of life? Now, I know the review board is here today to listen to the community and trying to get an understand of how this highway will affect the people and the community of Wrigley. So to just from hearing what I heard this afternoon, a lot of the community members, the concerned members had hit every point that I wanted to make. And I have a 2-page point here, and they touch base on everything. So you can tell that, you know, the concerns are coming right from the people. And we're hoping, and we're putting a recommendation forward so that the review board and GWT would help us have an alternate route, which we currently have. We're currently researching, and of course, GWT knows that we're going to have reports coming out pretty soon regarding our TK alongside our rerouting research. So this will all go forward to the Mackenzie Review Board so it can become public so that we're able to work within these parameters of a rerouting effort. This is coming from the community. This is it's very specific for the community, and this will capture all the impacts. I know GNWT has been on the table and engaging with Pehdzéh and trying to move this project ahead with our participation. So we've been here over and over all these years that Pehdzéh is not against development. What they're trying to do is protect the very way of life they have sustained for years and years and years. They want to protect the Dene way of life, which is the highest Dene law that we understand. So what you heard today here, those are the concerns that will be coming out of Pehdzéh as well in our reports. So these reports will go forward to the review board, GNWT, and we really highly recommend that we work within these parameters for rerouting. The rerouting will come closer to the Enbridge corridor right away, and it's in the foothills, and you can see the whole entire Mackenzie River. And this is not where the current route is, where you see trees and that's it, like slopes. Whereas at a higher ground, you got all the material there to build a highway. Everything is there. You're away from the river system. You're away from our traditional way of life and cultural sensitive areas, wildlife sensitive areas. You're away from all that. And looking into the future, it's perfect for tourism. Like, they can overlook the whole Mackenzie Valley rather than in a slopey area. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up. We will produce some reports, and of course, the review board will have a copy, and as well as GNWT at the same time. So with that, Masicho.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Can you just clarify whether your recommendations in doing this work will include the area right to the Satu boundary?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be it will include most of the foothills from here to the Satu region.
Okay.
Decho or the boundary.
Okay.
While I'm at it, I just want to add another thing. These bridges that went in without Pehdzéh being consulted has really will have a huge impact on the waterway and the cultural and the traditional way of life for the people of Wrigley. I just wanted you guys to know that as well. And I know the people are concerned of these bridges because simply looking at our Smith Creek Bridge here, that's fallen into the creek at some point. I don't know, we're expecting that anytime. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any final comments? We don't have time.
Good afternoon. This is Charlie Dad here. I'm from Wrigley, and I was born and raised in the bush. I just want to share some knowledge here about way back and when the thing started. That CNN line, that's when I was 6 years old. a CN line went through here, and then they were living on that side of the river. As I was getting older, that one time that old Wrigley got flooded. The commissioner came to Wrigley and asked the people to move to this side, the higher ground, where the phone lines running through. There'd be safety for people, emergency calls and that. And they promised people that they're going to give them houses. By that time, there were a lot of people that remember. Commissioner promised the people that they're going to get houses every year. And they built 17 log cabins. I'll just call it cabin because they're not really houses, but after they move here, then the people say, well, there's still more people that belong to the Wrigley. So the commissioner said, well, in that case, we'll send some to Simpson and to Delita, and they can come back later on while we're building houses for them. But that promise never happened. It's been happening since the treaty right came through. That way I understand when the treaty people came here, they gave $5 to the native people. And they promised people that they're going to help them out with things that they needed. But that never happened. You move here after the pipeline went through, and they asked the pipeline people asked people what they wanted. The people wanted 3% going to the community. And they said it wasn't enough. They want more than that. So later on, when the pipeline went through, they forgot about the Wrigley to compensate them. So things was going on like that. And right now, the roads we have here is not pretty well maintained because our bridge is almost going to the creek, fall into the creek, and the roads is going to slide towards the Mackenzie. And that's how we wouldn't get out. We never had anything that emergency for elders when they're sick. We don't have no nurse. We got the nurse station, but there's never been a nurse for the last 50 years or so. So this is the kind of problems we have with the government people, that they promise the community what they're going to do, but they never keep their promise. As an elder from the Mackenzie River, from Fort Simpson, that council been to here, the whole Mackenzie thing is all landslide coming down, all the way to Saline River from here on. This is why you guys can spend money fixing this road here, and the road goes north, it's going to be more expensive. And how you guys going to be able to maintain it and keep the road as it is the only thing that we, as the Native people, worry about for the safety of people. If they want the road, they can have the access here, and then they can use a pipeline that's more safe. It's already clear. From what I understand is the pipeline is no longer running. They're not going to use it anymore. For that, they promised people they're going to compensate. They never did. What the government can use that pipeline for the highway to go by us for other people that live north from us. I'm pretty sure they need a highway because the gas price is going up so high for them down there, even for us here. Everything is pretty high. I could have came here early, but I like the conversation they had on the Keith and the two young guys there that I know I grew up with them. I'm glad they brought all the situation up and listened to them. It's really good. I don't want to say too much. I got more to say, but I don't want to keep you guys waiting. So I just want to share this little information. That's what I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? No? Everybody's good? You look like you're being volunteered. You're welcome.
Hello,
Okay, sorry.
that's
There.
Keith calling here.
Oh,
Calling,
hi,
talk.
Keith. Yep.
One recommendation or a couple of their, I would say on behalf of PKFN, since I'm a member, um, is that I would recommend the GMOT and the review board to highly accept that rerouting on behalf of PKFN. Because they make some pretty good points, like for the future development for tourism, stuff like that. I thought about that a while ago, but it kind of slipped my mind while I was talking there. Also for to monitor the people and the traffic activities once that road gets done or prior to that. Because I noticed that a lot of people go on the Liar Highway every fall for hunting, right from pretty much every community south of Fort Simpson. Because I went there myself. I worked on the highway myself recently. And I've seen a lot of hunters every day. 10 trucks go through to Fort, in the direction of Fort Liar. Wherever the dugout, they camp there. They got quads, they boats, everything. And then later on, we see them going back south with their moose. And that's kind of activity you gotta watch out for, because basically they might what about that animals? Never know. It's gonna be a wide open season for people there. Because I know up in Satu region they don't allow anybody out to go hunting unless they have a permission from that governing body up there. But that show just a free, wide open, go help yourself kind of thing right there. And we're part of it too. But that's got to be monitored and dealt with. And also, if that, I was thinking like from Wrigley North, maybe they can put it, for example, like the toll fee for commercial and stuff like that to go up north, like they're having a bridge in Fort Providence. Maybe that way the GMOT can recover some of the money, the ones that they borrow, if they can build a highway. I know because it's going to be in the billions of dollars, and it's going to take a while. It's just a thought, and I highly recommend PKFN's rerouting for the review board. And that's all I have to say. And thank you for listening to me and being there in my home community. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Masicho.
Okay, thank you very much. Seth, did you have any final comments?
Yes, thank you. First and foremost, again, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear directly from each and every one of you, the concerns that you brought forth and the recommendations that you provided. I do want to reiterate a couple of the things that I mentioned in my presentation earlier. We have included as part of our project proposal as mitigative options the development of a community readiness strategy, which involves the development of community working groups to talk about the specific socioeconomic needs and the opportunities that we can try to take advantage of moving forward with regards to employment, training, economic development. That is something that we have proposed. We do, as a project team, want to continue those conversations. We're open to coming back, talking to the community directly, working with the PKFN to start fleshing out those ideas to inform that community readiness strategy. And similarly, in the developer's assessment report, there's a framework for a wildlife management and monitoring plan, which would help us to, once finalized, ensure that future wildlife management and monitoring programs, services, and plans are appropriate for the project. And again, right now it's a framework document. Our goal is to work collaboratively again with communities and community organizations to flesh that out. There's opportunities there to make sure that existing programs and services that we have as the GNWT are appropriate, and or if not, how can we work to make sure that they're improved so that they are appropriate. Those are conversations that we and our project team are open to continuing to have with the community and various organizations. We're happy to come back and talk about that at any point in time. It is a priority for us. Anything missing? I think on those notes, on the realignment piece again, the current alignment that we're working on again is what we've put forward for the purposes of the environmental assessment. Design, the specific design, I'm hearing concerns about the constructability of the road, operation, maintenance. Design is not complete. There's a lot of work that's going to be needed over the next couple of years to, again, refine the alignment. We're working with PKFN right now to explore those opportunities. As well, for the actual final design of the road, we got to factor in various different things, including the constructability, the final safety of the road. We heard talk about making sure it's straighter, less turns, things like that. That is all feedback we want to have as we work to define and finalize the design on the project. So again, those conversations are valued. And we appreciate your opinions. We hope to work collaboratively with you moving forward. With that, maybe I'll leave it there. Again, thank you guys very much for having us. Thank you to the board for coordinating. And I look forward to ongoing discussions.
Thanks so much, Seth. I just wanted to take a quick moment and say that I've done my best to capture some of the key points and expertise that you've shared, some of your concerns, issues, recommendations, suggestions. At the same time, Hannah has been documenting things, and everything you say will, of course, be part of the record that Mackenzie Valley Review Board and others will able to have access to. I invite you to, if you have anything that you didn't feel comfortable saying in the group or wanted to add, there's a box outside and we've got some paper here. You can slide some thoughts in there anonymously. The second point I wanted to make, and I'm a little biased because Joanna and I do a lot of work in the world of bringing Indigenous knowledge and science together. As an outsider coming here today, I heard you sharing a lot of Indigenous knowledge expertise, for example, around the road and slumping and clay. As an outsider, that's something that I see as a really strong example of your expertise that if this project were to go ahead, it's a way that you can advise and bring your expertise to the table. We didn't have enough time today, and certainly there's never enough time. But I know the review board is interested in hearing more from you about how those kinds of traditional knowledge, recommendations, expertise, insights can provide guidance to how this project from beginning to start, again, if it were to go ahead, can be improved. So thank you for sharing some of those. It was an honor to hear some of that. Thank you.
On behalf of the review board, we would like to say thank you to the community. Oh, sorry, Tim, you would like to address the session here first before I make closing remarks? Go ahead. Tim Lenny.
Tim Lenny. You guys are going home now already? We're just getting started. Oh, come on. We got to have 2 or 3 nights of this stuff, and then maybe we'll get something resolved. You know, this in and out every 2 or 3 hours, we'll go on for the next 30 years. We'll still be at the same table. And I guess that's been the big issue of it. But time is of an essence, I guess. No, I haven't had anything to say for quite a number of years, but I'm sharing with some of these young ones here that I'm more willing to participate in the future. But I know that the community has its work cut out for them, and always have. We've always realized that. And I just want the review board to understand that, you know, the government can do all their homework, can do all their homework. They come leave here with their people, other industries, other groups, you know, and talk about Wrigley and what they're doing and what they're saying, but we're never present. And they like talk about us out there, but they never invite us to their table to participate. I've asked at one time that we should have, if they're going to dialogue with industry and other proponents of this Mackenzie Valley Highway, well, where's Wrigley? Because this is where the highway starts. Why can't others hear directly from the community where they're at? Maybe we can generate a little bit of support of what the community aspirations are and what their needs are. So it's only a one-sided story here, you know, and it's taken this long, you know. 2027, you want to turn to dirt and maybe start building from then. That's not a possibility, I don't think, but pretty wild dream. But other than that, we're getting there slowly. I mean, it's taken us a number of years to actually get a liaison position, you know, but I really don't know how that is funded. Is that just per year, or is that a multi-year project funding? So the community is always trying to find resources to do its due diligence in regards to this project itself. So the capacity has to be there. It's either from the Crown, because I know these guys won't give us any money because they're going to talk against them, so they don't want to do that. So other than that, specifically to the road, you know, if you're looking at the specifics on just that little 1 kilometer that you're identifying on that winter road, come on, you guys got to been at that for about how many years? You know, half of your highway right-of-ways in the Mackenzie River on 3 areas. You know, so put it up above on the high bank, and that's all we're saying. There's no science. Take a plane, fly over it. You know, and you talk about boots on the ground, well, get your boots on the ground. So that's all it's all about. But right now, I can't really support the actual route they're selecting to do an assessment on. They're wasting your money. It's a dead issue. And you haven't heard it clear here over the past few years. If you move it above ground, yes, you'll be in a more positive position. And the only reason is that it's a right-of-way. And initially, it was just a telephone line. That's it. The only reason that they don't want to go further up is to have to go through an environmental assessment to get that done. So I'd rather have used this CN line, which is actually not a right-of-way. It's still an OCN line. It's not a right-of-way at all for a highway, even for a winter road. If they did, I'd like to see the permit for the winter road. So just to get away from that, and there are other options, as the locals say, there are other options. So all I'm saying is just listen to some of the local people. They know what they're talking about. So with that, we have a liaison position that the community needs to do. I just sharing all this stuff here. You've heard from us individually. So I'm sharing with the younger ones here. They need to. We need to gather here and come up with a collective position. Because, like you said, you're all over the place, and that's where we are at. And you have the dollars. You shouldn't be. We don't have any resources. So we're wasting a lot of time just picking on individuals. But if we can do this collectively as a community and come as one voice, I think there'll be a lot more, less conflict, less conflict. So that's, I guess, I'm looking at that. The community is not saying no to anything. We just do the PDR, show us which way you want it, and then after we show them which way you want it, no, we don't want it that way. We got to put it over here. So why waste all those resources over the past number of years to get to where we are today? With that, you all have a really safe trip and a good life. I mean, this job is hard on both of us. You know, that's why most of us get gray hair by now. With that, be safe, and we will meet again. Masi.
Thank you, Tim. We appreciate that, Masicho. So with that, we would like to extend a big thank you to the community here of Wrigley to come out and to voice their concerns. We appreciate the concern or the presentations from the GNWT. Thank you to Natasha and Joanne, your team, for coming out, and our staff for supporting us here. We appreciate that. And a huge, big thank you. And actually, we should have a round of applause for Sharon, that diligently went out to the community of Wrigley, was our go-to for everything here to make this event happen here, to get the people out. So Mussy Joe, from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you to the people too that catered to the lunch here. We appreciate that. And we're sorry that we have to leave, but there'll be other opportunities for you to voice your concerns. So with that, we would like to say thank you again from the bottom of our hearts, sir, everyone that made this meeting here possible for us. Ernest Moses, would you be so kind to come to the table and to close the meeting with a prayer? Masicho awareness. Thank you to the people online too as well. Thank you. Safe travels, everyone.